You know, I think one of the remarkable things that has come to light over the last couple of decades is that areas that we thought were absolutely pristine wilderness, like the Amazon rainforest, for example, but many other areas like British Columbia's forest, we've thought that they were pristine and because humans had no impact on them. But what we're realizing now is that these areas seem pristine to the explorers or the colonizers. But in fact, people had lived in them for thousands of years, and that in fact they had been shaped in large part by humans. The Brundtland Commission report, Our Common Future, 1987, said it very clearly. The only people with a proven track record of living in balance with their area, not for decades or even centuries, but for millennia, are the indigenous people. And when you think about it, they've lived in place by learning. They've learned from the failures, the successes, the mistakes of their ancestors, and those lessons have been passed down through hundreds of generations, distilled down into a body of information, not that you can publish a paper and get a promotion for, critical knowledge for survival. And so it's kind of a no-brainer to say, hey, look, these people have lived in these forests, these areas, all this time. Who better to guide us on a sustainable way of living than the people who've shown by their way they live that it's possible? This is indigenous people's land. They've been living here all this time. We can't just go in and tell them what to do with it. Better to say, hey, how can we help you gain control over your land? Because you will do a better job than we have. Tribal parks are a no-brainer, it seems to me. What a great possibility for Canadians that people who've lived in these lands can control them, can continue to use them, but continue to show us what the kind of practices we can have to in fact save the forest for future generations. I think the important thing about tribal parks is the mindset that goes with their being set aside. I've been so amazed at attending First Nations Indigenous events where the prayers and the dances and the songs are all about thanking the Creator for nature's abundance and generosity over and over. But you know, we in the dominant society, we just go and, oh, here's a resource, let's take it. There's no sense of, wow, I'm so grateful to get this. And in acknowledging our gratitude, there is a reciprocity of obligation, of responsibility. And that's the thing about tribal parks. They're not going to go in there and say, oh, how can we exploit this or that? But it's constantly, oh, here we have, thank you for having this forest. Thank you for the trees and the animals. Thank you. And we've got a responsibility then in accepting your generosity. We have a responsibility to be sure that your children, your seeds will continue to go on. That's the heart of sustainability. And that's what's brought to us by an Indigenous perspective. Embodied in the culture, especially the language, is thousands of years of accumulated knowledge. And when we lose a language and culture, science will never duplicate what's in that hard-won body of information. So I think that we should be pouring as much effort into preserving the cultures and the bits and pieces that have existed after smallpox and colonization and all of these other catastrophes. These wisps of knowledge that remain are precious beyond imagination.